I smoothed the folds of my navy blue dress, my fingers tracing the fabric as if they could iron out the invisible wrinkles of my life. At 77, I'd stopped chasing fashion long ago, but this dress, simple, not too dressy, felt right for family dinners. It was the kind Marissa wouldn't roll her eyes at, yet decent enough to keep me from looking sloppy. Garrett had said dinner was at 7, leaving me an hour to kill. My living room, with its worn furniture and crowded shelves, wrapped me in memories. Each object told a story. The framed photo of James and me at our golden anniversary. Young Garrett with his first fish. Toby and Rebecca grinning at their graduation. These silent witnesses anchored me to a time when life felt simpler. When love didn't come with a price tag. I lingered on James's picture, his steady gaze meeting mine. 15 years since he'd been gone. And I still asked him for advice in my head. Edith, don't let yourself get hurt, he'd say. James was a master at setting boundaries. Even with Garrett, our only son, I never learned how. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, snapping me back. A message from Garrett. Smiling, I reached for my glasses, expecting a detail about tonight, maybe an offer to pick me up, though he hadn't done that in years. Instead, the words hit like a slap. I'm sorry, but we can't make it tonight. Marissa is hosting a dinner for her coworkers. We'll reschedule for another day. I reread it, my stomach twisting. Something didn't add up. Just yesterday, Garrett had called, insistent I be there, hinting at a special announcement. I stared at the screen, willing it to make sense. When another notification buzzed, my breath caught as I read. You weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there. Garrett's name. His number. My hand trembled. The phone suddenly heavy. My heart clenched. Icy fingers squeezing tight. This couldn't be my son. Not the boy who'd clung to my skirt on his first day of kindergarten. Who'd beamed introducing Marissa. But it was... I sank into the armchair, the phone still in my grip, as memories flooded me. Little Garrett, all gap-toothed smiles. Teenage Garrett, blushing over girl advice. Adult Garrett, proud of his new home, a 3-story townhouse at River Ridge Estates, with a private dock. A home I'd helped buy with a $120,000 down payment 6 months ago. It's an investment in the future, he'd said. A place for family gatherings. Your corner? My corner. I laughed bitterly. Apparently, that corner had vanished. The glossy brochure for River Ridge lay on the table, mocking me. I remembered the bank manager's raised eyebrow when I signed the paperwork. Are you sure? Wembley. It's a substantial sum. I was sure. James had left me enough to help our son. It felt right. There'd been other investments too. A new car for Garrett. Safer for the kids. Private school for Toby's special learning needs. Marissa's dream kitchen remodel. Each time, I wrote the check, convinced it was the right thing. And what did I get? Rare calls, stiff holiday visits, and now this, a text barring me from the home I'd paid for. I rose, my legs unsteady, and walked to the secretary desk I'd inherited from my mother. The top drawer held my financial records, neatly organized. The folder labeled Garrett was the thickest. I pulled it out, flipping through checks and receipts. A $20,000 loan for a business. Garrett abandoned after 6 months. Marissa's continuing education courses. Roof repairs for their old house. Toby's car insurance. How many times had I bailed them out? How much had I given? Thinking it bought love. Respect. The truth settled like a stone. I'd been renting their attention. And the lease was up. Rebecca's text broke my spiral. Grandma, are you coming over today? I missed you. My granddaughter. Always different, sincere, caring. Even when her parents forgot I existed. I typed slowly. Honey, it looks like your parents have decided it's best for me to stay home. Her reply was instant. What? Daddy said yesterday you absolutely had to be there. So Rebecca didn't know. I pictured her in that new house, my house confused. Hurt. My fingers hovered over the bank's number. James's voice echoed. Don't let people sit on your neck. Edith. Even if they're family, I dialed. Good evening. Faggotville Community Bank. A polite voice answered. My name is Edith Wembley, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'd like to consult about some regular payments from my account. As the operator verified my identity, a plan formed clear. Ruthless. Fair. I wasn't just closing accounts. I was reclaiming myself. The bank operator's voice was crisp, professional, as she confirmed my identity. Thank you. Wembley, how can I assist you with your payments? I took a deep breath. The phone pressed to my ear and glanced at Garrett's text again. You weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there. The words burned, each syllable a betrayal. I want to cancel all automatic payments and transfers from my accounts, I said, my voice firm despite the tremor in my chest. Every single one. There was a pause. The faint click of keys halting. All payments. Wembley. You have quite a few. I could hear the surprise in her tone, but I didn't waver. All of them. And I need to revoke the power of attorney I gave to my son, Garrett Wembley. Another pause. Longer this time. This is a significant change, she said cautiously. Perhaps you'd like to visit the branch for a detailed discussion. I cut her off. Polite but unyielding. I'll come tomorrow to sign the paperwork, but I need the process started now. Can you do that? She hesitated, then confirmed. We can temporarily suspend all payments until your visit, but we'll need your signature for a full reversal. I nodded to myself. Perfect. Suspend everything immediately. As she typed, I looked at James's photo on the mantel, his steady gaze bolstering me. You're right. Honey, I thought. I can't let them walk over me anymore. She finished with a professional lilt. Done. Wembley, you have 174 regular payments and transfers, all now suspended pending your visit. Anything else? 174. The number stunned me. 174 ways I'd propped up Garrett's life. Marissa's ambitions. Toby's carelessness. That's all. I said, I'll be there tomorrow when you open. I hung up, the silence of my living room wrapping around me like a shawl. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lift, as if I'd shed a backpack I hadn't realized I was carrying. My phone buzzed again. Garrett. I stared at his name, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to answer, to demand an explanation, to hear him say it was a mistake. But the text was no accident. It was deliberate. Cold. A door slammed in my face. I typed a reply, my fingers trembling with a mix of anger and resolve. Then pay your own way. Freeloaders. I froze, staring at the words. Was I ready to burn this bridge? But hadn't they torched it first, barring me from a home I'd funded? I hit send and powered off the phone. The act final. Liberating. I walked to the closet and pulled out an old photo album, its leather cover worn from years of handling. Flipping through, I saw snapshots of a life I'd almost forgotten. James and me on our honeymoon, Garrett's first birthday, family picnics by the lake, smiles, untainted by obligation. When had it changed? When had my love become a currency, spent to keep them close? James's voice echoed again. Edith, don't let anyone take you for granted. Even on his deathbed, he'd made me promise to care for myself as fiercely as I cared for others. I'd broken that promise. But tonight, I was starting to keep it. I set the album aside and changed out of the navy dress, swapping it for my soft house robe. The dinner plans were dead, but I wasn't. I made tea, the kettle's whistle a small comfort, and pulled out a novel I'd meant to read for months, but always shelved for family demands. The pages smelled of promise, of time reclaimed. As I settled into my armchair, the phone stayed off, its silence a shield. My heart, usually racing with worry, beat steady, calm. The next morning, I woke early, a strange energy coursing through me. I dressed simply slacks. A blouse? No need for the dinner dress's pretense, and drove to Fayetteville Community Bank, arriving 20 minutes before it opened. The night had been restful. The first in years without sleeping pills. Determination was my fuel. When the doors unlocked, I was the first inside, greeted by a young teller's smile. I need to see Mrs. Howard, I said. Linda Howard, the bank manager, had known James and me for decades. She'd understand. Minutes later, I sat in Linda's office, her gray hair as neat as ever, her eyes kind but probing. Edith, it's good to see you, she said, shaking my hand. I was informed about your call last night. All 174 payments are suspended, as requested. Is something wrong? I met her gaze squarely. I want to cancel them all permanently and cut off Garrett's access to my accounts. Linda removed her glasses, wiping them slowly, a habit when she was processing something big. We've known each other a long time. Edith, Are you sure? This is a radical step. I'm absolutely sure, I said, my voice unwavering. She nodded and began typing, pulling up my accounts. I'll prepare the documents. It'll take a moment. You have a lot of payments. While the system worked, she handed me a folder. These are printouts of your transactions from the past year. It might help to review them. I opened it, and the pages told a story of my naivety. $800 monthly for Garrett's mortgage. $850 quarterly for Marissa's SUV insurance. $200 for Toby's tennis club. Each line a plea I'd answered. A need I'd met. A sacrifice I'd made. Linda's voice broke my thoughts. Here's the paperwork to cancel all payments and revoke the power of attorney. Read carefully and sign if you agree. I scanned the forms, the legal jargon blurring into a single truth. I was done being their bank. I signed, the pen steady in my hand. Linda watched, her expression softening. If you need help, Edith, or just someone to talk to, I'm here. I smiled, a real one, for the first time in days. I'm okay, Linda. Really? As I left the bank, the morning air felt lighter, cleaner. I'd taken the first step, but the road ahead was long, and I knew Garrett wouldn't let go easily. The folder from Linda Howard sat heavy in my lap as I drove home from the bank. Its pages a ledger of my misplaced trust. Each receipt, each canceled check, was a reminder of the years I'd poured my savings into Garrett's family, believing it would bind us closer. With his text, "You weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there," still searing my mind. I saw those payments for what they were. Not love, but leverage. Back in my living room, I spread the documents across the coffee table, the weight of 174 transactions staring back at me. How had I let it come to this? How had I mistaken their dependence for devotion? I picked up a receipt. The monthly mortgage payment for Garrett and Marissa's River Ridge townhouse. I could still hear Garrett's pitch 6 months ago, his voice warm with promise. This is the perfect place for our family and for you. There's a guest room on the first floor. No stairs to climb. A guest room I'd never seen, let alone slept in. Another sheet. $850 quarterly for Marissa's SUV insurance, because she needs a reliable car for high-level clients. Then Toby's tennis club. $200 a year, because he's got potential. And it's good for his confidence. Potential he'd squandered, dropping out after a season. My fingers traced a check for $20, a loan for Garrett's short-lived business venture, a craft brewery that folded in 6 months. It's a sure thing, he'd said, eyes bright with ambition. I'd believed him, just as I'd believed Marissa needed $5,000 for continuing education courses that somehow never led to a promotion. Roof repairs, private school fees, Rebecca's college tuition the only expense I didn't regret. Page after page, a map of my generosity. Or perhaps my gullibility. James's voice whispered in my head. Edith, you can't buy love. I hadn't listened, convinced my checkbook could secure their gratitude, their presence. I leaned back, the folder slipping to the floor. The silence of the house pressed in, broken only by the tick of the mantel clock. My gaze drifted to James's photo, his steady eyes a quiet reprimand. He'd always seen through Garrett's charm, warning me not to let our son's needs eclipse my own. Set boundaries. Edith, he'd say, even family can take too much. But I'd been soft, eager to be needed, to keep the family close after James was gone. At 77, I was staring at the cost, a lifetime of sacrifices for a family that didn't even want me at their table. The phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. Rebecca again. Grandma. What's going on? I don't understand why they canceled. My granddaughter's confusion mirrored my own hurt. But her sincerity was a lifeline. I typed back. It's complicated. Honey, I'll explain soon. I couldn't burden her yet. Not when she was caught in the crossfire of her parents' choices. Setting the phone aside, I stood and walked to the secretary desk, pulling out the Garrett folder again. I needed to understand the full scope of my entanglement before I could truly cut free. The deeper I dug, the clearer it became. My support wasn't just financial. It was emotional, psychological. I'd been their safety net, their problem solver, their excuse for not standing on their own. A receipt for $500 caught my eye. Marissa's country club membership. Because it's where deals are made. Edith. Deals that never materialized. But I'd paid anyway. hoping it would earn her respect. Another for Toby's car insurance, $900 a year. Because he's young, he needs a break. How many breaks had I given, each one chipping away at my own security? I thought of the holidays I'd spent alone, the birthdays they'd forgotten, the anniversaries of James's death when no one called. Yet I'd kept writing checks, convinced it was my role as a mother, a grandmother. The truth was uglier. I'd been buying their time, their perfunctory visits, their half-hearted "I love yous." Garrett's text wasn't just a rejection. It was a mirror, showing me how little I meant to them without my wallet. The realization stung, but it also sparked something new: anger. Not at them, but at myself for letting it go on so long. I gathered the papers, stacking them neatly, as if order could tame the chaos in my heart. My eyes fell on a photo tucked among the receipts. Garrett, Toby, and Rebecca at a picnic years ago. All smiles under a summer sun. Where had that joy gone? When had my son become a stranger? His family a machine that ran on my money? I didn't have answers, but I had a choice. Canceling the payments was just the start. I needed to rebuild, not just my finances, but my sense of self, my dignity. The doorbell rang, startling me. I glanced at the clock mid-afternoon, too early for casual visitors. Peering through the peephole, I saw Rebecca, her brown hair pulled back, her face etched with worry. My heart softened. Unlike her parents, she'd always seen me, not my checkbook. I opened the door, and she rushed in, hugging me tightly. "Grandma, what's happening?" "I saw your text." And I got worried. Her concern was genuine, a balm to the wounds Garrett's message had left. "Honey," I said, leading her to the kitchen. "Want some tea?" She nodded, settling at the table as I filled the kettle. "I don't understand," she said, her voice small. "Dad was so excited about you coming to dinner. Why'd they cancel?" I hesitated, unsure how much to share. Rebecca was 23, old enough for the truth, but I didn't want to poison her against her parents. "Your father sent me a message," I said carefully, setting a cup before her. "He said your mother didn't want me there." Her eyes widened, and I showed her the text. She covered her mouth, tears welling. "Grandma." I had no idea. "That's awful." We sat in silence, the kettle's hum filling the space. "I've been helping your family for years," I said finally. "Paying for the house, cars, school. But yesterday, I realized it's not about love for them. It's about what I can give." Rebecca reached for my hand. "I see it. Grandma, how they take advantage." I've tried talking to Dad, but he always defends Mom. Her honesty steadied me. "What now?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "I take care of myself. And you and I, we keep being honest with each other." She nodded, squeezing my hand. For the first time, I felt I wasn't alone in this fight. Rebecca's visit lingered in my mind as I woke the next morning. Her sincerity, a quiet anchor in the storm. Garrett's text had unleashed. I'd slept better than I expected. The decision to cancel those 174 payments settling like a foundation beneath me. But the work wasn't done. Today, I'd make it permanent, severing the financial cords that had tethered me to my son's family. I dressed with purpose: crisp blouse, tailored slacks, no trace of the navy dress's deference, and drove back to Fayetteville Community Bank. The folder of receipts tucked under my arm. The morning air was sharp, promising a clarity I was ready to claim. Linda Howard greeted me with the same warm professionalism, her office a familiar haven of order. "Edith, you're back," she said, gesturing to a chair. "The paperwork's ready, but I pulled some additional records for you to review." She slid a stack across her desk, each page detailing the web of transactions I'd woven over the years. I scanned them. 200 for Marissa's kitchen remodel, 500 for Toby's private tutor, 0 for Garrett's emergency credit card debt. Each entry was a choice I'd made, thinking it would keep us close. They felt like chains. "I'm canceling everything," I said, signing the first form with a steady hand. "And Garrett's power of attorney gone." Linda nodded, her glasses glinting as she processed the request. "This will take effect immediately once signed," she said. "You're sure?" I met her eyes. The weight of James's advice. "Don't let them take you for granted," bolstering me. I've never been sure. As I signed the final page, a strange relief washed over me, like shedding a coat too heavy for the season. "You're doing the right thing, Edith," Linda said softly. "I've seen families take advantage before. It's hard, But it's brave. I smiled, grateful for her understanding. Leaving the bank, I felt lighter, but the morning wasn't over. My next stop was Francis Whitaker's law office, a short drive across town. Francis, with his graying beard and sly smile, had handled our family's legal matters since James was alive. His office smelled of old books and coffee, a comfort as I settled into a leather chair. "Wembley, what brings you here?" he asked, leaning forward. "I need to change my will," I said, my voice calm but resolute, "and set up a trust to protect my assets." His eyebrow arched, but he didn't pry. "Family circumstances," I nodded. "They've changed." We spent an hour mapping out an irrevocable trust, with me as the sole beneficiary during my lifetime. Upon my death, 40% would go to Rebecca, 10% to a local library charity, and the rest at my discretion. Garrett and Toby would receive the legal minimum. Marissa, nothing. Francis scribbled notes, explaining tax implications and legal safeguards. "This ensures no one can challenge your decisions," he said. "You're locking it down tight." I signed the preliminary forms, each stroke a step toward freedom. "James always said you were stronger than you looked," Francis added as we wrapped up. He was right. I left with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Back home, I brewed tea and sat at the kitchen table, the bank folder and trust documents beside me. The silence was no longer oppressive, but empowering. I'd spent decades as the family's ATM, dispensing money to solve their problems, to buy their fleeting affection. Garrett's text, "My wife doesn't want you there," had shattered that illusion, but it also freed me. I wasn't just closing accounts. I was opening a door to a life where my needs mattered. James's photo on the mantel seemed to nod in approval, his eyes warm with pride. The phone buzzed, shattering the quiet. Garrett's name flashed on the screen. My pulse quickened, but I let it ring. The unanswered call, a small act of defiance. A voicemail followed. His voice strained. "What's going on?" "The bank called about a missed mortgage payment. Call me back." I deleted it without listening to the rest. He'd learned soon enough that the well had run dry. Another buzz, Rebecca. "Grandma, can I come over?" "I'm worried about you." I smiled, typing back, "Of course." "Honey, I'm here." Her care was a reminder that not all ties were transactional. Rebecca arrived an hour later, her face etched with concern. "Grandma, Dad's freaking out," she said, hugging me tightly. "He said something about the bank blocking payments." We sat in the living room, sunlight streaming through the windows. "I've stopped all financial support," I said, meeting her gaze. "Your parents, Toby, everyone. It's time I took care of myself." She nodded slowly, her eyes searching mine. "I get it. I've seen how they treat you, always asking for stuff. It's not fair." Her words, so simple, soothed a wound I hadn't named. "I showed Dad the text he sent you," she admitted, fidgeting with her sleeve. "He said it was a mistake, that Mom was stressed." "But I don't buy it." I reached for her hand. "You don't need to take sides. Honey, this is between me and them." She squeezed my fingers. "I just want you to be okay." For the first time, I felt seen, not as a resource, but as a person. "I am okay," I said, and I meant it. "And you and I, we'll keep being us. No strings attached." As Rebecca left, promising to call tomorrow, I felt a spark of hope, canceling the payments, rewriting the will. These weren't just acts of rebellion, but of reclamation. I wasn't erasing my family. I was redefining my place in it. The phone buzzed again. Garrett, then Marissa. I ignored them, turning instead to my novel. Its pages a world where I owed no one anything. Outside, the afternoon sun warmed the garden, and I thought of James's promise, the one I was finally keeping. To live for myself, not just for others. Tomorrow, I'd face Garrett's inevitable confrontation. But today was mine. I sipped my tea, savoring the quiet. The freedom of a choice made for me alone. The folder of receipts sat closed. A chapter ended. A new one was beginning. And for the first time in years, I was eager to write it. Rebecca's visit left a warmth in my chest. Her genuine care, a stark contrast to the cold dismissal of Garrett's text. As I tidied the kitchen after she left, her words echoed. "I've seen how they treat you, always asking for stuff." At 23, she saw what I'd been blind to for decades, the transactional nature of my relationship with her parents and brother. Her support strengthened my resolve. But I knew the storm wasn't over. Garrett's voicemail, deleted but not forgotten, hinted at his panic. He'd come soon, demanding answers. And I needed to be ready. For now, though, the house was quiet, and I savored the peace, sipping tea and letting my thoughts settle. The morning brought a new task, sorting through the emotional debris of my decision. I sat at the dining table, the bank folder open, its receipts a roadmap of my sacrifices. Each one carried a memory. Garrett's grateful smile when I paid for his car. Marissa's rare thank you for her kitchen remodel. Toby's careless shrug when I covered his insurance. I'd thought these acts wove a tapestry of family love, but they were threads of obligation. Unraveling now in the light of truth, James's photo watched me from the mantel, his eyes urging me forward. You're doing this for you, Edith. I imagined him saying, keep going. I pulled out a notebook, jotting down what I wanted from this new chapter. Not just financial freedom, but emotional clarity, a life where respect wasn't bought, where love didn't come with a price tag. The list grew. Take that art class I'd always postponed. Visit Italy as James and I had dreamed. Reconnect with friends like Lorene Campbell, whose invitations I'd declined to prioritize family. The act of writing felt defiant, a reclaiming of dreams I'd buried under Garrett's needs. My pen paused at set boundaries. That was the hardest. But yesterday's call to the bank, the signatures with Linda and Francis, proved I could do it. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I peered through the peephole Rebecca again, her brown hair loose, a grocery bag in her arms. My heart lifted. Grandma, I brought lunch, she called as I opened the door, her smile bright but tinged with worry. We settled in the kitchen, unpacking sandwiches and fruit. I didn't want you to be alone, she said, slicing an apple. Dad's been ranting all morning about the bank. Mom's furious. I nodded, spreading mustard on my bread. They'll have to figure it out. I said, I'm done being their safety net. Rebecca chewed slowly, her eyes searching mine. I talked to Toby last night. He's mad. Says you're abandoning him. Her voice was soft, not accusing. I sighed, setting down my knife. Toby's 23. Rebecca, he's got a job. Why does he think I owe him rent money? She shrugged, a sad smile tugging her lips. Because you always have. They all got used to it, Dad. Toby, I saw it. Even when I was a kid, you'd drop everything to help, and they'd just expect it. Her words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they were true. I'd trained them to see me as a resource, not a person. I thought I was helping, I admitted, my voice low. I thought it made us a family. Rebecca reached across the table, her hand warm on mine. You're the best, Grandma. But family's not about money. It's about showing up. Like you always did for me. Her eyes glistened, and I squeezed her hand, grateful for her clarity, her love. We ate in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. After lunch, she helped me clear the table, her presence a reminder that not all bonds were broken. What's next for you? She asked, drying a plate. You've got this big, brave thing going, cutting them off. What do you want now? I smiled, surprised by the question. No one had asked me that in years. I'm figuring it out. I said, maybe a trip, maybe some hobbies. I want to live for me, not just for what others need. Rebecca grinned, stacking the dishes. You should go to Italy. You and Grandpa always talked about it. My heart skipped James's dream. Now mine to claim. Maybe I will, I said, the idea sparking. Lorene's been nagging me to travel with her. Rebecca's eyes lit up. Do it, Grandma. You deserve it. Her enthusiasm was infectious. And for a moment, I saw myself under a Tuscan sun, free from the weight of family demands. As we moved to the living room, Rebecca spotted the notebook on the table. What's this? She asked, flipping it open. My plan, I said, a bit shy. Things I want to do, now that I'm not bankrolling everyone. She read silently, then looked up, her expression soft. This is amazing. You're really doing it, living for you. I nodded, warmth spreading through me. I'm trying. It's new, but it feels right. Before she left, Rebecca hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, Grandma. And I'm here. Okay, not for money. Just for you. Her words were a gift, one I tucked close to my heart. I know, honey, I said, stroking her cheek. And I'm here for you, as her car pulled away. I felt a shift, not just resolve, but possibility. Rebecca's love wasn't contingent on my wallet, and that gave me hope for what family could be. Back inside, I picked up the notebook, adding Italy with Lorene to the list. The phone buzzed Garrett again, then Marissa. I ignored them. Their demands no longer my priority. Instead, I dialed Lorene. "Remember that mountain trip you mentioned?" I said when she answered. "Count me in." "And maybe Italy after that?" Her laugh was bright. "Edith, you're full of surprises." "I'm thrilled." We chatted, planning, and for the first time, I felt excitement for my own future, not someone else's. As evening fell, I sat with my novel, the house quiet but not empty. Rebecca's visit had shown me that love could exist without strings, that I wasn't alone in this new path. The receipts on the table, once a symbol of my entrapment, now felt like relics of a life I'd outgrown. James's voice whispered, "You're enough, Edith." And for the first time, I believed him. The morning sun filtered through my kitchen curtains, casting soft shadows on the table where I sat with a cup of coffee and my notebook. Rebecca's visit yesterday had left me buoyed, her support a reminder that not all family ties were frayed. But today was about solidifying the steps I'd taken, making sure the financial and legal barriers I'd erected were ironclad. I'd already canceled the 174 payments at the bank and started a trust with Francis Whitaker. But I needed to ensure every detail was locked down. Garrett's frantic voicemails, piling up unanswered, told me he was reeling. I wasn't ready to face him yet, but I was ready to protect myself. I drove back to Fayetteville Community Bank, the folder of receipts, now a talisman of my resolve. Linda Howard was waiting, her office as orderly as ever. "Edith, you're becoming a regular," she said with a wry smile, sliding a stack of forms across her desk. These finalized the cancellation of all payments and the revocation of Garrett's power of attorney. "I've also flagged your accounts for additional security. No changes without your in-person approval." I scanned the documents, each clause a brick in the wall I was building. "Thank you, Linda," I said, signing with a steady hand. "This feels final." She nodded, her eyes kind. "It is. You're taking back control. Not many have the courage." As I signed, Linda handed me a summary of the canceled payments. The list was staggering. $800 monthly for Garrett's mortgage, $200 for Toby's tennis club, $100 for Marissa's networking events. Each had felt necessary at the time, a way to keep the family close. They were shackles I'd willingly worn. "You've been generous, Edith," Linda said softly, "but generosity needs boundaries." I smiled faintly, James's voice echoing her words. "Don't let them take you for granted." I left the bank lighter, the signed forms a shield against the demands I knew were coming. My next stop was Francis Whitaker's office, the air thick with the scent of old leather and ink. Francis greeted me with his usual sly grin. "Back so soon?" "Wembley, ready to shake things up again." I laughed, settling into the chair. "Just making sure everything's airtight." "Francis, the trust? The will, I want no loopholes." He pulled out the draft documents we'd discussed, walking me through the irrevocable trust. "This protects your assets during your lifetime," he said. "You control distributions, and no one, Garrett included, can touch it. After you're gone, Rebecca gets 40%, the library charity 10%, and the rest as you decide. Garrett and Toby get the legal minimum. Marissa nothing." I nodded, reading the fine print. The trust felt like a fortress, safeguarding not just my money but my peace. "And the will?" I asked. Francis slid another document forward. "It mirrors the trust. Rebecca's share is secure, and I've added clauses to deed her challenges. Garrett would have to prove fraud or coercion, which he can't." I signed, the pen gliding smoothly, each stroke a declaration of independence. "You're rewriting your story, Edith," Francis said as he gathered the papers. "James would approve." I smiled, his words warming me. He's why I'm doing this. Driving home, I felt a quiet triumph. The bank and lawyer visits weren't just paperwork. They were my rebellion against years of being the family's doormat. Garrett's text. "My wife doesn't want you." There had been the spark, but the fuel was decades of neglect, of my own complicity in letting love become a transaction. I wasn't erasing my son or grandchildren. I was demanding they see me as more than a checkbook. Rebecca's face flashed in my mind. Her earnest, "I'm proud of you." "Grandma," She was proof that family could be different, that love could be free. Back home, I found a voicemail from Lorene Campbell, my old friend whose calls I'd too often dodged for family obligations. Edith, I heard you're stirring things up, her voice teased. Lunch tomorrow. I want details. I smiled, dialing her back. Lorene, I'm in, I said, and bring that wine you raved about. Her laugh was infectious, and we set a time. It felt good to say yes to something just for me. No strings attached. I jotted lunch with Lorene in my notebook, next to Italy and art class. The list was growing. A map of a life I was finally claiming. The phone buzzed Garrett again. I let it ring. His persistence no longer my burden. A text followed. We need to talk. The bank's threatening foreclosure. Please call. I deleted it, my heart steady. He'd have to face the consequences of his choices, just as I was facing mine. Another buzz, Rebecca? Grandma, can I stop by tonight? Just to hang out. I typed back. I'd love that. Honey, her visits were a balm. A reminder that not all bridges were burned. Rebecca arrived with a pizza, her smile bright. No family drama tonight. Okay, she said, setting the box on the table. We ate in the living room, laughing over old movies and her stories from work. You seem different. Grandma, she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. Lighter. Somehow. I nodded, swallowing a bite. I'm learning to live for me. It's new, but it's good. She grinned. It suits you. In Italy? You're really going? I laughed. Lorene's pushing me. I'm thinking fall. Maybe sooner. As we cleared the plates, Rebecca paused, her expression serious. Dad's a mess. Mom's blaming him for everything. I hate seeing it. But I get why you did this. I touched her arm. It's not about punishment. Honey, it's about respect mine for myself, and theirs for me. She nodded, hugging me tightly before leaving. You're my hero, Grandma. Her words carried me through the evening. A light in the gathering dark. Alone again. I sat with my notebook, adding movie nights with Rebecca to the list. The bank forms and trust documents lay nearby, symbols of a battle won. Garrett's calls would come. Marissa's manipulations too. But I was ready. James's photo gleamed in the lamplight, his smile my guide. I'd spent years giving my power away. Now, I was taking it back, one signature, one choice, one day at a time. The evening with Rebecca left me grounded. Her warmth, a shield against the tension I knew was brewing. Garrett's unanswered calls and texts, Mom. The bank's threatening foreclosure hovered like storm clouds, and I braced for his inevitable visit. I spent the morning gardening, the rhythm of weeding and watering soothing my nerves. The roses James had planted years ago were blooming, their scent a reminder of his steady presence. You can do this, Edith, I told myself, clipping a thorned stem. I'd face the bank, the lawyer, and my own doubts. Facing my son would be harder, but I was ready. Around noon, the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. I wiped my hands on my apron and peered through the peephole. Garrett stood on the porch, alone, his shirt wrinkled, hair disheveled a far cry from his usual polished self. My heart clenched, the old instinct to fix his problems flaring. I pushed it down, squared my shoulders, and opened the door. He said, his voice tight, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I closed the door and led him to the kitchen, where the kettle sat ready. I asked, my tone calm, deliberate. He threw up his hands, pacing. The bank called. The mortgage payment bounced. They're talking foreclosure. What's going on? I poured water into the teapot, letting his words hang. I canceled all payments, I said, setting a cup before him. All 174 of them. And your power of attorney? I'm done funding your life. His jaw dropped, eyes wide with disbelief. What? Is this a joke? I met his gaze, steady despite the ache in my chest. No joke, Garrett. I got your text. My wife doesn't want you there. That wasn't a joke either. He paled, slumping into a chair. That was stupid. I shouldn't have sent it. Marissa was upset, and I cut him off, my voice firm. You chose to make her happy by insulting me, by barring me from a house I paid for. He flinched, looking away. It's not what you think, he mumbled. What am I supposed to think? I asked, sitting across from him. That my son values his wife's whims over his mother? That my money matters more than my presence? He opened his mouth, then closed it. His hands fidgeting. I sipped my tea, letting the silence stretch. "Please," he said finally, his voice low, pleading. "We can't manage without your help. The house, the cars, Toby's tuition, we're drowning." His desperation tugged at me, but I held firm. James's words. "Don't let them take you for granted, my anchor." "Did you think about that when you wrote that text?" I asked. "When Marissa criticized my clothes? When Toby forgot my birthday? When you didn't call on Dad's death anniversary?" He looked down, shame flickering in his eyes. But I saw a spark of irritation, too. "We appreciate everything," he said, his tone shifting to defense. "We love you, even Marissa, even if she doesn't show it." I shook my head, the words hollow. "I don't believe you, Garrett. You don't love me. You love my money, my willingness to fix your problems. But me, when was the last time you asked how I felt? Invited me over just to spend time together?" He opened his mouth, but no answer came. I leaned forward, my voice soft but unyielding. "Your father warned me you can't buy love. I didn't listen. I thought if I gave enough, you'd value me. I was wrong." He stood, pacing again, his face a mix of panic and anger. "I get you're upset, but this," cutting us off. "It's not fair. Let Marissa and me come over this weekend. Talk it out." I shook my head. "My decision's final." His voice rose, cracking. "How are we supposed to pay for the house?" "The loans? You're destroying us!" I stood too, meeting his eyes. "You're 54, Garrett. You and Marissa have good jobs. You're adults. Figure it out." His fists clenched, irritation overtaking shame. "After everything we've done for you, what have you done for me?" I interrupted, my voice steady. "Name one thing, Garrett. One selfless thing you've done for me." He froze, his mouth working, but no words came. The silence was deafening, his inability to answer louder than any argument. "You can't," I said, my heart heavy but resolute. "That's the problem. You've taken, and I let you, but no more." He ran a hand through his hair, a teenage gesture of frustration. "It was a mistake. I've apologized. What do you want?" Me on my knees. "I want you to leave," I said quietly. "I need time to think, and you need to face the consequences of your choices." His eyes widened, disbelief etched on his face. "You're kicking me out." I nodded, my voice firm. "Garrett, when you're ready to talk about us, not money, I'll be here." He stared at me, as if seeing me for the first time, then turned and walked out. The door slammed, the sound echoing through the house, followed by the roar of his car peeling away. I sank into a chair, my hands trembling. Confronting Garrett had been like pulling a thorn from my heart, painful but necessary. Part of me, the old soft part, wanted to call him back, to promise I'd fix everything, but I didn't. I finished my tea, the cup warm in my hands, and started washing dishes, the routine grounding me. The phone rang. Marissa. I rejected the call, her name a reminder of the next battle. A text followed. "Edith, we need to talk. Garrett told me about your conversation. Let's sort this out like adults." I snorted. Like adults? Marissa's favorite phrase when she wanted control. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled out my notebook, adding "stand firm with Garrett" to my list of goals. The roses outside caught my eye, their petals vibrant against the green. I stepped onto the porch, breathing in their scent, and felt a quiet strength. I'd faced my son, held my ground, and survived. The phone buzzed again. "Rebecca, Grandma, just checking in." "You okay?" I smiled, typing back, "I'm fine." "Honey, come over tomorrow." Her reply was instant. "Absolutely. Love you." Rebecca's love, Lorene's friendship, my own resolve. These were my foundation now. Garrett's anger, Marissa's manipulations, Toby's entitlement. They couldn't touch me unless I let them. I returned to the kitchen, the dishes dry, the house calm. James's photo gleamed in the afternoon light, his smile a quiet affirmation. I'd taken another step, not just away from my family's demands, but toward a life where I was enough. The confrontation with Garrett left a quiet resolve in its wake, like the stillness after a storm. I'd stood my ground, something I hadn't done with him in years. And though my hands still trembled as I scrubbed the last dish, I felt stronger. Marissa's text. "Let's sort this out," like adults, sat unanswered on my phone. its condescending tone a reminder of her knack for turning every conflict into a performance. I knew she'd come next, armed with apologies or accusations, whatever she thought would pry my wallet open again. But I was done playing her game. The navy dress hung in the closet, unworn, a relic of the woman who'd sought approval. Today, I wore my own skin, and it fit better than ever. I spent the morning sorting through old letters, a task I'd put off for years. James's handwriting filled the pages, love notes from our early days, practical lists from our later ones. Edith, you're my anchor, he'd written once. I smiled, tracing the ink. He'd always seen my strength, even when I doubted it. The phone buzzed Marissa again, a voicemail this time. I deleted it without listening, a small act of defiance. Instead, I called Lorene, craving her blunt honesty. Edith, you're a warrior, she said when I recounted Garrett's visit. Marissa's next, mark my words. Don't let her charm you. I laughed, promising lunch soon. Her support a lifeline. By noon, the doorbell rang, its chime sharp in the quiet house. I peered through the peephole Marissa, impeccable in a tailored blazer, holding a box from the expensive bakery downtown. Her smile was practiced, but her eyes were calculating. I opened the door, bracing myself. Edith, good morning, she said, her voice loud, performative, as she thrust the box at me. May I come in? We need to talk. I took the pastries, stepping aside without a word, my expression neutral. She swept into the living room, her heels clicking, giving the space her usual appraising glance that always made my skin prickle. Edith, she began, perching on the couch, hands folded primly. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Her tone was syrupy, rehearsed. Garrett shouldn't have sent that text. It was an emotional reaction. We were stressed about work, planning that dinner. I sat across from her, offering no tea, no smile. Let's not waste time. Marissa, I said, my voice calm but firm. You're not here to apologize. You're here for the money. Her smile faltered, just for a second, before snapping back. Edith, that's not fair. I'm truly sorry for what happened. We value you. You're part of our family. Really. I leaned back, crossing my arms. So important you didn't want me at your table. In the house I paid for. Her lips tightened, but she pressed on, shaking her head with feigned regret. That night was special. Edith, we had important guests, potential clients. I needed everything perfect for my career. You understand. I raised an eyebrow. Perfect without me. What would I have ruined? Marissa, my outdated clothes, my conversation. She shifted, her composure cracking. That's not what I meant. You and I, we've had our differences, but that's no reason to destroy our family. Destroy, I echoed, my voice steady. Garrett's desperate. Toby can't pay his bills? You're at risk of losing the house. A house I funded. And somehow, I'm the one destroying. Marissa sighed, as if explaining to a child. Edith, your decision affects everyone. We're ready to compromise. To make this right. Garrett's sorry. We all are. I shook my head, unmoved. This isn't about the text, Marissa. It's about years of disrespect. Of using me. I've paid for your house, your car, your lifestyle. What have I gotten? Criticism, neglect. A text telling me I'm not welcome. She stood, her face hardening, the mask of friendliness slipping. You're manipulating this, Edith, making us the villains. We're a family. Families support each other. I stood too, meeting her gaze. Where was that support when I was alone on holidays? When I was sick and you didn't call. When James's anniversary passed without a word. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Caught off guard. I pressed on, my voice low but unyielding. Name one thing you've done for me. Marissa, one selfless act of care or respect. Her silence was answer enough. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You can't, I said, stepping closer. Because our relationship has always been a transaction. I give, you take, but I'm done. Her eyes flashed, anger breaking through. You're going to regret this. Edith, we're your family who'll care for you when you're too old to manage. I smiled faintly, unshaken. I'll care for myself like I did before I started pouring my life into yours. She grabbed her purse, her movements sharp. This isn't over. Garrett won't let it go. You're his mother. He has rights. I shook my head. Rights to what? My money? Marissa, don't come back until you know what respect means. The door slammed behind her, the echo ringing through the house. I sank into a chair, the pastry box untouched on the table. The encounter had been draining, but I'd held my ground, refusing to bend to her tactics. James's photo caught my eye, his smile a quiet nod of approval. I'd faced Marissa's manipulation and emerged intact. Stronger. The phone buzzed Garrett. Then Toby? I ignored them, pulling out my notebook instead. I added, say no to Marissa to my list. Each word a victory. Lorene arrived an hour later, her wicker basket brimming with homemade scones and gossip. Heard Marissa was here, she said, pouring tea on the porch. How'd it go? I recounted the visit, her eyes widening at Marissa's audacity. That woman's a predator, Lorene said, shaking her head. You did good, Edith. Standing up to her, we laughed, the tension easing, and planned our mountain trip. Italy next, she teased, and I nodded, the idea no longer a dream, but a plan. As evening fell, I sat with my novel, the house calm, my heart steady. Marissa's threats lingered, but they couldn't touch me. Rebecca's text arrived. Grandma, you okay? Heard Mom was over. I smiled, typing back, I'm fine. Honey, come by tomorrow. Her reply, can't wait, was a promise of connection, not obligation. I'd faced Garrett. Now Marissa. Toby was likely next. But I was ready. The receipts on the table, once a weight, were now a reminder. I was free, and no one could take that from me. Marissa's visit left a bitter aftertaste, her calculated charm and veiled threats lingering like stale perfume. I woke the next morning, determined to keep moving forward, my resolve hardened by the knowledge that I'd held my ground. The house was quiet, sunlight spilling through the windows, and I busied myself with small tasks, watering the roses, dusting James's photo, adding lunch with Lorene to my notebook. Each act felt like a stitch in the new life I was sewing, one where my time and energy were mine. But I knew the family wasn't done. Garrett's silence since our confrontation was too heavy, and Marissa's parting shot, Garrett won't let this go, hinted at more to come. I braced for the next wave, suspecting Toby would be the one to test me. Mid-afternoon, the doorbell rang, its chime cutting through the hum of my thoughts. I peered through the peephole and saw Toby, my 23-year-old grandson, looking uncharacteristically disheveled, crumpled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. My heart softened for a moment, remembering the boy who'd learned to ride a bike in my backyard, his stubborn grin so like Garrett's. But I steeled myself. Toby had always been spoiled, first by his parents, then by me, and I couldn't afford to be soft now. I opened the door, my expression neutral. Grandma, he said, shifting awkwardly. Can I come in? I nodded, leading him to the living room. He flopped onto the couch, rubbing his hands together nervously. Want tea? I offered, keeping my tone even. Thanks, he muttered, eyes darting. Grandma, I need help. I sat across from him, folding my hands. What kind of help? Toby. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself. Money. My card's blocked. The bank's demanding payment? I can't pay rent. My car, everything's a mess. His voice cracked, and he looked at me, pleading. The same look he'd used as a teen to get new sneakers or concert tickets. I leaned back, studying him. How much do you owe? I asked calmly. He hesitated, then mumbled, 7,000? Got carried away with credit cards the last few months. I raised an eyebrow. Carried away on what? He shrugged, avoiding my gaze. Stuff. New phone. A trip with friends. Some parties. I nodded slowly, letting his words settle. $7,000. Frittered away on whims. While I'd been funding his car, his insurance, his tennis lessons, James's voice echoed. Don't let them take you for granted. Edith. Toby, I said, my voice steady. You're 23, working at an insurance company. Why are you still relying on me to bail you out? He shifted, uncomfortable. I don't know. You've always been there. So I just didn't think about it. His honesty, however careless, was disarming. But I held firm. Exactly. Your parents. All of you, you're used to me fixing things. But I'm done. I've canceled all payments. All 174 of them. You need to handle this yourself. His face fell, shock replacing his pleading look. But Grandma, what am I supposed to do? What adults do, I said, leaning forward. Talk to the bank. Restructure your debt. Get a second job. Cut expenses. You're not helpless. He stared at me, as if I'd spoken a foreign language. It's not that easy, he said, his voice rising. I'm screwed. You're just leaving me after saying you love me? I kept my composure, though his words stung. I do love you, Toby. That's why I'm not giving you money. Love isn't a checkbook. It's letting you grow, even if it's hard. You're too dependent, and that's hurting you more than it's helping. He stood, pacing, anger flashing in his eyes. So this is payback, because of Dad's stupid text. I shook my head, standing too. This isn't revenge. It's about respect mine for myself, and yours for me. Think about it. When was the last time you visited just to talk, not to ask for something? When did you care about my life, my feelings? He froze, his mouth opening, then closing. I softened my tone, giving him space. You can't remember. Can you? That's the problem. Toby, our relationship's been a transaction I give. You take. I want more than that. He sank back onto the couch, deflated, his anger giving way to something like confusion. I sat beside him, my voice gentle but firm. I won't give you money, but I can offer something else. My friend Francis Whitaker, the lawyer, needs a part-time assistant filing, answering phones. It's not much, but it's extra income. I can put in a word if you're interested. His eyes widened, surprised. You'd do that? After everything? I nodded. You're my grandson. I love you, but my love's not a blank check anymore. It's guidance. Support. The kind that helps you stand on your own. Toby was quiet, his hands clasped tightly. Okay, he said finally, his voice low. I'll try it. Thanks, Grandma. He stood, hesitating, then gave me a quick, awkward hug, his first in years that didn't come with a request. As he left, I felt a mix of sadness and hope. Maybe this was a step toward a real relationship, or maybe he'd revert to his old ways. Only time would tell. I returned to my notebook, adding offered Toby guidance. Not money. The phone buzzed Garrett, then Marissa, their persistence a dull ache. I ignored them, pulling out my novel instead. Rebecca texted, coming over tonight. Grandma brought dessert. I smiled, typing back, can't wait. Honey, her visits were my refuge. A reminder that love could be pure, untainted by expectation. Lorene called, her voice bright. Heard Toby was over. You okay? I laughed, recounting the visit. You're a saint. Edith, she said, Italy's gonna be your reward. Evening fell, and Rebecca arrived with a cheesecake, her laughter filling the house. We talked about her job, my travel plans, anything but the family drama. You're glowing. Grandma, she said, slicing dessert. This new you, it's inspiring. I smiled, warmth spreading through me. Toby's visit, though fraught, had shown me I could set boundaries without losing love. Garrett and Marissa would keep pushing, but I was ready. The receipts on the table, once a symbol of my entrapment, now marked my liberation. James's photo gleamed, his eyes proud. I was rewriting my story, and for the first time, I liked the main character. Toby's visit, with its mix of tension and tentative hope, left me reflective but resolute. I'd offered him a path forward, not a payout, and his hesitant acceptance felt like a crack in the family's pattern of entitlement. But I knew Garrett and Marissa wouldn't relent so easily. Their silence since Toby's departure was too calculated, and Marissa's threat, Garrett won't let this go, hung heavy. I spent the morning baking, the scent of cinnamon rolls filling the kitchen, a ritual that grounded me. James used to tease that my baking could solve world peace, and today I needed that comfort as I braced for the next confrontation. The phone stayed quiet, but I sensed a storm brewing. Around 2, Civeropi. The sound of car engines disrupted the quiet. I glanced out the window, my heart sinking. 3 cars pulled into my driveway. Marissa's sleek SUV, Garrett's sedan, and an unfamiliar minivan. Marissa stepped out first, her posture rigid, her face set in a determined smile. Behind her were Toby and Rebecca, then a group I barely recognized. An older couple, a younger man with a woman, and others, at least 10 in all. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a visit, it was an ambush. The doorbell rang, sharp and demanding. I took a deep breath, channeling James's calm. Don't let them bully you. Edith, and opened the door. Edith, Good afternoon, Marissa said, her voice loud, performative, as if addressing an audience. We're here to discuss the situation as a family. I scanned the group, their faces a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Garrett stood behind her, looking uneasy, while Rebecca hung back, her expression apologetic. Toby mirrored his mother's confidence, arms crossed. Marissa, I said, my voice steady despite the anger rising. I didn't invite these people. Who are they? She waved a hand, her smile strained. This is family. Edith, my parents, my brother Curtis and his wife, my sister Paige and her husband, some close friends. They're concerned about what's happening. Concerned? I echoed, stepping onto the porch. You brought strangers to my home to discuss our private matters. Marissa's eyes narrowed, but her tone stayed saccharine. We're one big family, aren't we? Families support each other in tough times. I glanced at Rebecca, who mouthed, I'm sorry. Garrett avoided my gaze, his hands in his pockets. Marissa, I said, my voice cold. We're not. This is my house, and I decide who enters. Only you, Garrett, Toby, and Rebecca are welcome. The rest need to leave. The group shifted awkwardly, exchanging glances. Marissa's smile faltered. Edith, don't be inhospitable. They've come a long way. On your orders, not mine. I snapped, my patience thinning. They go, or this conversation ends now. A tense silence followed, Marissa's jaw tight as she weighed her options. Finally, she turned to her relatives. Fine, we'll keep this private. Please wait in the cars or walk the neighborhood. We won't be long. Her father, a tall man with a stiff nod, led the group away, their murmurs fading. I stepped aside, letting Marissa, Garrett, and the kids inside, my anger simmering but controlled. In the living room, Marissa took the lead, sitting primly on the couch. Edith, your decision to cut off support doesn't just affect us, it impacts our entire family. My parents were counting on us for their nursing home costs. Garrett's brother needs help since he lost his job. I raised an eyebrow, turning to Garrett. You mean Neil? The brother, you haven't invited to a family event in 5 years. Garrett flinched. But Marissa pressed on. Your selfish choice is causing a domino effect. Everyone suffers, including your grandchildren. Toby nodded, stepping forward. Grandma, I'm getting evicted. I told you yesterday I need help. I looked at him. Then Marissa. Toby, you could move back with your parents temporarily. Marissa's eyes flashed. That's the problem. We can't afford our own bills. The bank's threatening foreclosure by week's end. I turned to Rebecca, standing quietly. You here to ask for money too? She shook her head, her voice soft. Grandma, I'm here because I didn't want them speaking for me. I respect what you're doing. Marissa shot her a glare, but I felt a surge of gratitude for Rebecca's honesty. I faced Marissa, my voice calm but unyielding. You call me selfish, but let's talk about your actions. Where was this family when I spent holidays alone? When I was sick and no one checked on me? When James's death anniversary passed without a call? Garrett looked down. Toby shifted uncomfortably, but Marissa remained defiant. We're busy. Edith, we have jobs, commitments. I nodded, stepping closer. So did I? But I always found time for you, your house, your cars, your dreams. And what did I get? A text saying I'm not welcome in a home I paid for. Marissa stood, her voice rising. You're twisting this. Making us the villains. We're ready to compromise. Garrett's sorry for the text. It was a mistake we're all paying for. I shook my head. This isn't about the text. It's about years of neglect, of using me. I've been your ATM, not your mother or grandmother. I'm done. Garrett finally spoke, his voice strained. What do you want us to do? We can't survive without you. I met his eyes, my heart aching but firm. Grow up. Garrett, you and Marissa have jobs. Take responsibility for your lives. Marissa snorted, grabbing her purse. This is pointless. You'll regret this. Edith, when you're alone, I stood my ground. I'm not alone. I have myself, and that's enough. Please leave and take your support group with you. She stormed out, Toby trailing her, his head down. Garrett hesitated, his eyes pleading, but I pointed to the door. Garrett, think about what I said. Rebecca lingered, hugging me tightly. I'll call tomorrow. Grandma, she whispered. I nodded, stroking her cheek. I'll be here. Honey. As the door closed, I sank into a chair. The house quiet again. The ambush had been Marissa's spectacle, but I'd turned it into my stand. Lorene's text arrived. Saw a circus at your place. You okay? I smiled, typing back. I'm fine. Wine tonight. Her reply on my way was a promise of solace. James's photo gleamed, his smile my anchor. I'd faced the family's united front and emerged unbroken, my boundaries intact. The receipts on the table, once a chain, were now a testament to my freedom. The echoes of Marissa's orchestrated ambush faded with the slam of the front door, leaving my house wrapped in a fragile calm. I sat in the living room, the weight of the confrontation settling into my bones. But there was no regret, only a fierce clarity. I'd faced their collective pressure, their accusations of selfishness, and held my ground. Garrett's pleading eyes, Marissa's calculated outrage, Toby's sullen compliance, they'd all expected me to fold, to reopen the bank of Edith Wembley. But I hadn't, and that truth pulsed like a quiet victory. Rebecca's whispered promise, I'll call tomorrow. Grandma was the only thread of family I clung to, her loyalty a light in the wreckage. I stood, smoothing my blouse, and walked to the kitchen to brew tea, the ritual grounding me. The receipts from the bank folder lay scattered on the table, each one a reminder of the 174 ways I'd propped up their lives. 800 for their mortgage, 200 for Toby's tennis club. Zoo. For Marissa's networking events numbers that once felt like love, now exposed as leverage. I swept them into a neat pile, their power over me broken. James's photo watched from the mantel, his steady gaze a silent cheer. You did it, Edith. I imagined him saying, you told the truth. The truth was raw, ugly. For years, I'd been less a mother or grandmother than a resource, valued only for what I could give. Garrett's text. My wife doesn't want you. There wasn't the cause, but the catalyst. Stripping away the illusion that my sacrifices earned their respect. I'd asked them to name one selfless act, one moment of care untainted by expectation, and their silence had been louder than their protests. Marissa's final barb. You'll regret this when you're alone, stung. But it didn't sway me. Alone didn't scare me anymore. Being used did. Lorene arrived as promised, her knock brisk, her arms laden with a bottle of Merlot and a tin of homemade cookies. Edith, you're a legend, she said, hugging me tightly on the porch, half the neighborhood's buzzing about Marissa's caravan. I laughed, leading her inside, the tension easing under her warmth. We settled in the living room, wine glasses in hand, and I recounted the ambush, Marissa's theatrical plea, the strangers she'd rallied, Rebecca's quiet defiance. Lorene's eyes widened, then narrowed. That woman's shameless, dragging her whole clan to guilt you. Even for her, she thought numbers would break me. I said, sipping the wine. It's warmth spreading, but it just made me sure. They don't see me, Lorene. They see my money. She nodded, her expression fierce. You've been their bank too long. About time they learned to stand without you. Her bluntness was a balm, affirming what I'd fought to claim. We talked late, shifting from family drama to lighter things, our mountain trip. The art class I'd signed up for. The Italy plan gaining shape. You're blooming, Edith, Lorene said as she left, hugging me again. Don't let them dim you. Alone again. I sat with my notebook, adding face the family ambush to my list of victories. The phone buzzed Garrett. Then Marissa, their messages piling up unread. I ignored them, pulling out my novel instead. Its pages a refuge. Rebecca texted, You okay? Grandma. That was intense. I smiled, typing back, I'm fine. Honey, you were my rock today. Her reply, Love you always was a promise I trusted, untainted by the family's greed. The next morning, I woke early, the house bathed in soft light. I gardened, tending James's roses, their blooms a quiet triumph. The confrontation replayed in my mind, not as a wound, but as a milestone. I'd exposed the truth. Our relationship was a transaction, and I'd opted out. Marissa's accusation of selfishness rang hollow. True selfishness was their expectation that I'd sacrifice my dignity for their comfort. I clipped a rose, its scent sharp, and placed it by James's photo, a small offering to the man who'd always believed in my strength. Midday, I drove to the community center to register for the art class Lorene had nudged me toward. The instructor, a vibrant woman named Clara, welcomed me warmly. Never too late to start painting. Edith, she said, handing me a supply list. I nodded, excitement flickering, a hobby just for me. No family strings attached. Back home, I found a voicemail from Francis Whitaker, my lawyer. Edith, the trust and will are filed, he said. You're protected. Call if you need me. I smiled. The legal fortress complete, my assets safe from Marissa's threats. Rebecca stopped by that evening. Her visit a quiet joy. We baked cookies, laughing over flour-dusted mishaps, and talked about her dreams, a master's degree, a trip abroad. You inspired me, Grandma, she said, licking batter from a spoon. Seeing you stand up. Live for you, it's big. I hugged her, warmth flooding me. You inspire me. Honey, you always have. Her presence was proof that family could be love, not obligation. A bond worth keeping. As she left, I sat with my notebook, sketching plans for Italy, Rome's Colosseum, Florence's art, Tuscan hills. The phone rang. Garrett again. I let it go to voicemail. His voice strained. We're losing the house. Please, let's talk. I deleted it. My heart steady. Their crisis wasn't mine to solve. I thought of Marissa's entourage, their awkward retreat, and felt a spark of pride. I'd faced their spectacle and won, not by shouting, but by standing firm. The receipts, now filed away, were a closed chapter. My future art classes, travel. Rebecca's laughter was an open book, and I was ready to write it. Lorene texted, art class. You're unstoppable, I laughed, replying, join me. Her instant, hell yes, sealed it. James's photo gleamed, his smile my guide. I'd told the family the truth, not just about their actions, but about my worth. Whatever came next, more please. More anger, I was ready. My life was mine now, and no one could take that away. The aftermath of the family ambush left my house quieter than ever, but it was a peace I'd earned. I'd faced Marissa's spectacle, Garrett's desperation, Toby's sullen demands, and emerged with my boundaries intact. Rebecca's steadfast support and Lorene's fierce encouragement were my anchors, proof that I wasn't alone despite Marissa's parting shot. You'll regret this when you're alone. Alone was no longer a threat. It was a space to rediscover myself. At 77, I was shedding the role of family ATM and stepping into a life where my desires took center stage. The morning sun warmed my porch as I sipped coffee, my notebook open to a growing list. Art class, mountain trip, Italy. Each entry was a promise to myself, a future I was eager to claim. I spent the day organizing my home, a physical act mirroring the mental clarity I'd gained. I sorted through closets, donating clothes I'd worn to please others, dresses like the navy one, chosen to avoid Marissa's eye rolls. In their place, I hung brighter pieces, colors I loved but had shied away from. I found an old sketchbook from my 20s, its pages filled with drawings I'd abandoned when motherhood took over. Flipping through, I felt a spark. Maybe Clara's art class could rekindle that passion. James's voice echoed, Edith, you're more than their mother. I smiled, tucking the sketchbook by my easel, a gift from him I'd never used. The phone stayed silent, a relief after days of relentless buzzing. Garrett and Marissa's absence felt strategic, as if they were regrouping for another push. I didn't care. My focus was on building, not bracing. I called the travel agency Lorene recommended, booking a consultation for the Italy trip. June's perfect for Tuscany, the agent said, her enthusiasm infectious. Warm, not crowded. I hung up, picturing myself among vineyards, free from family demands. Lorene texted, Italy's on. I'm packing already. I laughed, adding Tuscan wine tour to my notebook. The plan solidifying, Rebecca stopped by in the afternoon. Her visit a burst of light. She brought a photo album she'd found in her parents' attic, snapshots of our family's happier days. We sat on the couch, laughing over Garrett's bowl cut, James's fishing hat, my perm disasters. You look so happy here, Grandma, Rebecca said, pointing to a picnic photo. I nodded, a pang of nostalgia mixing with resolve. We were, but happiness changes. Honey, I'm finding it again, my way. She hugged me, her eyes bright. You're my role model. Her words warmed me, a reminder that our bond was real, untainted by money. As we flipped through the album, Rebecca hesitated, then spoke. Things are rough at home. Dad and Mom are fighting nonstop. They're selling Mom's SUV, talking about downsizing the house. I listened, my heart steady. They'll manage, I said. They have jobs. Skills. It's time they stood on their own. She nodded, biting her lip. I know. I just feel bad for them. I touched her hand. You're kind, Rebecca, but don't carry their burdens. Focus on you. She smiled, squeezing my fingers. Like you're doing? I laughed. Exactly? After she left, I felt a flicker of guilt had I been too harsh, cutting them off so completely. But James's photo steadied me, his gaze firm. You gave enough, Edith. I'd spent decades solving their problems, neglecting my own dreams. The guilt passed, replaced by a quiet pride. I'd chosen myself, and it felt right. I pulled out my sketchbook, doodling a Tuscan hillside, the lines shaky but free. Clara's class started next week, and I was eager to learn to create something for me alone. Lorene came over for dinner, bringing her famous pot roast and stories from the neighborhood. Marissa was at the grocery store, buying generics, she said, smirking. No caviar this time, I chuckled, slicing the roast. They're adjusting. They'll survive. Lorene raised her glass. To your freedom. Edith, you're showing us how it's done. We toasted, her support a constant strength. We planned our Italy itinerary, Rome's Colosseum, Florence's art. A coastal village Lorene swore was the best gelato on earth. Each detail fueled my excitement. A life unfolding beyond family drama. The phone buzzed as we cleared the table. Garrett. I let it ring. Lorene nodding approvingly. Let him sweat, she said. A voicemail followed. His voice strained. We're meeting tomorrow. All of us. Please, we need to fix this. I deleted it, my resolve unshaken. Another text from Rebecca. Grandma. Dad's pushing for another talk. I'll be there. Okay, I replied. I know. Honey. I'm ready. Her loyalty bolstered me, a reminder that I wasn't fighting alone. That night, I sat with my novel, the house calm, my heart steady. The receipts, now filed away, were a closed chapter. My sketchbook lay open, its pages waiting for new creations. I thought of Marissa's ambush, her attempt to shame me into submission, and felt no fear. I'd faced their united front and won. Not with anger, but with truth. Tomorrow's meeting would be another test. But I was prepared. I'd laid my foundation bank. Lawyer, Rebecca, Lorene, my own dreams. Whatever they brought, I'd stand firm. I added sketch daily to my notebook. A small act of faith in myself. James's photo gleamed, his smile my guide. I'd spent years dissolving into others' needs, but now I was solid, whole. The Italy trip, the art class, Rebecca's laughter, these were my future. Not Garrett's crises or Marissa's manipulations. I closed the notebook, the weight of my choices light, liberating. The roses outside glowed in the moonlight, their resilience a mirror of my own. Tomorrow, I'd face my family again. But tonight, I was enough, and that was everything. The prospect of another family meeting loomed, but I woke with a calm I hadn't felt in years. Garrett's voicemail. We're meeting tomorrow. All of us hinted at another attempt to sway me, but I was no longer the pliable Edith who'd open her checkbook at the first plea. The morning was crisp, and I spent it in the garden, pruning James's roses, their thorns a reminder to stay sharp. My notebook lay open on the porch table. Its growing list art class. Italy? Sketch daily a map of a life I was building for myself. Rebecca's text, promising her presence, steadied me. Whatever Garrett and Marissa planned, I'd face it with the truth I'd laid bare yesterday. I was done being their ATM. Mid-morning, I called Clara, my art class instructor, to confirm my spot. You'll love it, Edith, she said, her voice warm. Bring that sketchbook you mentioned. I smiled, picturing myself painting, a hobby untouched by family demands. Next, I called the travel agency, finalizing a June itinerary for Italy-Rome. Florence, a Tuscan village. The agent's enthusiasm fueled mine. You'll fall in love with the light there. I hung up, imagining James's smile. He'd always wanted me to see Italy, and now I would, not for him or anyone else, but for me. Around noon, a surprise text came from Toby. Grandma, started at Mr. Whitaker's office today. It's okay, I guess. Thanks for the hookup. I blinked, caught off guard. Toby. Working. The boy who'd begged for rent money days ago was taking steps. However small, I replied. Proud of you, Toby. Keep at it. His response was a simple thumbs up, but it sparked hope. Maybe my refusal to fund him had nudged him toward responsibility. I added Toby's job to my notebook, not as a victory, but as a possibility, a crack in the family's cycle of dependence. Rebecca arrived for lunch, bringing sandwiches and her easy laugh. Toby told me about the job, she said, setting the table. He's grumbling, but he's showing up. I nodded, slicing tomatoes. It's a start. I didn't expect it. She grinned, her eyes bright. You shook things up. Grandma. They're all scrambling. Dad's looking at second jobs. Mom's selling her jewelry. I paused. The knife still. Part of me felt a pang. Garrett struggling. Marissa humbled, but it passed. They'll manage, I said. They're capable. They just forgot how. Rebecca nodded, her expression thoughtful. You're teaching them. It's tough, but it's good. We ate on the porch, the roses blooming vibrantly around us. How's home? I asked cautiously. She sighed, picking at her sandwich. Still chaotic. Mom's blaming Dad for the text. Dad's blaming Mom for pushing you away? They're talking about selling the house. I nodded. Unsurprised. The River Ridge townhouse. My 120. War 0 down payment was their anchor. And without my support, it was slipping. I'm sorry you're caught in it, I said, touching her hand. She smiled faintly. It's okay. I'm moving out soon anyway. Got a lead on an apartment. I want my own life. Like you're doing. Her words warmed me. A mirror of my own journey. You'll do great, honey, I said. You've always had your head on straight. She laughed, squeezing my hand. Learned from the best. After lunch, we walked the garden. Her stories of work and friends, a reminder of the joy in simple connection. As she left, she hugged me tightly. You're my hero, Grandma. Don't forget that, I smiled, waving as her car pulled away. Her love a gift I hadn't earned with money. Lorene called later, her voice bright. Heard Toby's working for Francis. You're doing, I chuckled, recounting the text. You're a miracle worker. Edith, she said, about Italy, let's book that wine tour. We planned. Her excitement infectious, and I felt the future unfolding. Vibrant and mine. The phone buzzed, Garrett. Again, I let it ring. His voicemail predictable. Tomorrow's important. We're coming at 2. Please be there. I deleted it, my heart steady. The meeting would be their last chance to manipulate me. But I was ready, fortified by Rebecca's loyalty. Toby's small step. My own plans. That evening, I sketched in my old book. A Tuscan hill taking shape under my pencil. The lines were clumsy, but they were mine. A reclaiming of a passion I'd shelved for family. I thought of Marissa's ambush, her parade of concerned relatives, and felt no fear. I'd faced their united front and sent them packing. Tomorrow, I'd do the same. Not with anger, but with the calm of a woman who knew her worth. James's photo gleamed, his smile my anchor. I'd spent years dissolving into their needs, but now I was solid, whole. The next morning, I prepared for the meeting, choosing a bright sweater red, a color Marissa once called too loud. I wore it defiantly, my reflection in the mirror unfamiliar but strong. I baked cookies, not for them but for me, the act a small rebellion. Rebecca texted, I'll be there today. Grandma, you've got this, I smiled, typing back, thanks. Honey, I'm ready. Lorene sent a meme of a woman kicking a door down, captioned, You right now? I laughed, her humor a shield against the coming storm. As Drew approached, I sat in the living room, my notebook and sketchbook nearby, symbols of my new life. The doorbell rang, sharp and punctual. I stood, smoothing my sweater, and opened the door to Garrett, Marissa, Toby, and Rebecca. Marissa's smile was tight, Garrett's eyes tired, Toby's posture tense. Rebecca gave me a quick nod, her presence my strength. Come in, I said, my voice calm but firm. They filed in, the air heavy with expectation. I was ready to face them, not as their bank, but as Edith Wembley, a woman who'd finally chosen herself. The family filed into my living room, their faces a gallery of tension. Marissa's tight smile, Garrett's weary eyes, Toby's fidgeting hands, Rebecca's quiet support. The air crackled with unspoken demands, but I stood calm. The red sweater, I'd chosen a bold contrast to the navy dress I'd once worn to please them. The cookies I'd baked sat untouched on the coffee table. A deliberate act for myself, not them. I gestured to the couch. I said, my voice steady, rooted in the strength I'd built over weeks of saying no. Rebecca's nod bolstered me. A silent, "You've got this, Grandma." I was ready to face their final push, knowing it was my house. My rules, my life. Garrett spoke first, his voice strained. "We're here to fix this. The bank's foreclosing. We're selling Marissa's car." Toby's barely scraping by. "We need you." Marissa leaned forward, her tone softer than usual, but still calculated. "Edith, we know we've hurt you. We're sorry for the text, for everything. Let's compromise." I sat across from them, hands folded, unmoved. "Compromise how?" "You want my money back on the table." Toby jumped in, his voice urgent. "Grandma, I'm working at Mr. Whitaker's, but it's not enough. Rent's due. My cards are maxed." I looked at him, then the others, my gaze steady. "Toby, you're taking steps. That's good. But your rent? Your debts, those are yours to solve." Garrett. "Marissa, you're adults with careers. Why are you still leaning on a 77-year-old widow?" Marissa's smile faltered, her eyes flashing. "Edith, families help each other. Your decisions hurting everyone us, our extended family, even Rebecca." I glanced at Rebecca, who shook her head. "Don't speak for me." "I'm fine. Grandma's doing what's right for her." Her words were a lifeline, and I pressed on, my voice calm but firm. "Marissa, you talk about family. But where were you when I was alone on Christmas? When James's anniversary passed and no one called? You took my money, 120 0 for your house, 0 for Garrett's failed business, 0 for Toby's whims, and gave me what? A text saying I'm not welcome." Garrett looked down, his hands clasped tightly. "I messed up. I'm sorry, but we're drowning." I nodded, acknowledging his pain, but not his plea. "I know it's hard, Garrett, but you're capable. You all are." Marissa stood, her voice rising. "You're punishing us." "Edith, you think you're strong, but you're just selfish. Who'll be there when you're old and frail?" I stood too, meeting her gaze. "I'll be there for myself, like I've been all these years while you used me. And I'm not alone. I have Rebecca, Lorene, my own life." Rebecca's eyes glistened, her nod subtle but fierce. Toby shifted, muttering, "This is pointless." I turned to him. "Toby, you're working now. Keep going. You don't need my money. You need your own strength." Garrett's voice cracked. "What do you want from us?" I softened, but only slightly. "Respect." "Garrett, not for my wallet, but for me. Ask how I'm feeling. Visit without an agenda. Care about my life. Can you do that?" He opened his mouth, then closed it, his silence deafening. Marissa grabbed her purse, her face cold. "You'll regret this." "Edith, families don't abandon each other." I shook my head. "You abandoned me first." "Marissa, please go." Rebecca hugged me, whispering, "I'm proud of you." Toby and Garrett followed Marissa out, the door closing with a final thud. I sank into a chair, the house quiet again, my heart steady despite the ache. Lorene arrived soon after, her wine bottle and sharp wit a welcome balm. "They tried again," she said, pouring glasses. I nodded, recounting the meeting. "Marissa called me selfish, but I'm not." "Lorene, I'm just done being their doormat." She clinked her glass against mine. "Damn right. You're a queen." "Edith." We laughed, planning our Italy trip, the future brighter than the family's gloom. Rebecca texted later, "You are amazing." "Grandma, I'm moving out next week, new apartment." I smiled, typing back, "Can't wait to see it." "Honey." Toby sent another surprise. "Got a raise at work?" "Small, but it helps," I replied. "Keep it up." Toby, his progress, however modest, was a ripple from my stand. I learned from Rebecca that Garrett and Marissa had sold the River Ridge house, moving to a modest apartment. Marissa took a second job. Garrett was budgeting for the first time. Their struggle wasn't my fault. It was their lesson, one I'd enabled too long. I spent the evening sketching, a Tuscan villa emerging on the page, my art class fueling my confidence. Clara's voice rang in my head. "You've got a good eye." "Edith." I added paint a landscape to my notebook, each goal a brick in my new life. The phone stayed silent. Garrett and Marissa's absence a relief. I thought of their meeting, their pleas, and felt no guilt. I'd offered them truth, not money, and that was enough. James's photo gleamed, his smile my guide. I'd faced their final push and stood firm, my worth no longer tied to their needs. The next day, I met Lorene at the community center, trying a pottery class on a whim. Her laughter as we mangled clay was pure joy, a reminder of life beyond family drama. Italy's gonna be epic, she said, her hands muddy. I nodded, picturing us among vineyards, free. Back home, I found a letter from Francis Whitaker, confirming my trust and will were untouchable. I filed it away, the receipts now a distant memory. My life art, travel. Rebecca's visits was unfolding, vibrant and mine. Whatever Garrett and Marissa faced next, I was no longer their solution. I was my own. The Tuscan sun warmed my face as I sat on a cafe terrace, a glass of Chianti in hand, the rolling hills before me a canvas of gold and green. Lorene scribbled in her travel journal beside me, her laughter mingling with the chatter of locals. 6 months had passed since the family's final meeting, when I'd faced Garrett's pleas, Marissa's accusations, and Toby's sullen demands, and told them no. That day, in my red sweater, I'd claimed my life. And now, at 77, I was living it sipping wine in Italy, free from the weight of 174 receipts, free to be Edith Wembley, not just a mother or grandmother. James's photo, tucked in my bag, seemed to smile. You did it, honey. Italy was everything I'd dreamed, a promise kept to James and myself. Rome's Colosseum had left me breathless. Florence's art galleries stirred my painter's heart, and now Tuscany offered peace, its light as soft as Clara's art class had promised. Lorene raised her glass. To you, Edith, the woman who kicked her family's greed to the curb. I clinked her glass, laughing. To freedom. She nodded, her eyes warm. James would be proud. I smiled, the pang of his absence softened by the life I'd built art classes. Pottery with Lorene, movie nights with Rebecca. This trip, each was a brushstroke in a new portrait of me. Rebecca's texts kept me grounded, her new apartment a milestone she'd shared with pride. Grandma, Italy looks amazing. Come see my place when you're back. I'd replied with photos of vineyards, our bond unbroken by the family's fallout. Toby, to my surprise, had stayed at Francis Whitaker's office, earning a promotion. His occasional texts got a bonus. Grandma, thanks for the push hinted at growth, a ripple from my refusal to fund his old ways. Garrett and Marissa, Rebecca said, were adjusting downsized to an apartment. Marissa working extra hours, Garrett learning to budget. Their struggle wasn't my burden, but I hoped they'd find their own strength. Lorene and I spent mornings at wineries, afternoons in museums, evenings with gelato by the sea. You're different here, she said one night, her voice soft, lighter. Like you've shed a skin. I nodded, gazing at the stars. I was afraid of being alone. Lorene, I clung to Garrett's family, thinking money would keep them close. But letting go, it gave me this. She squeezed my hand. You gave yourself this. Her words rang true. The receipts, the house I'd paid for. Marissa's ambush, they were shadows now, faded against the vibrancy of my life. Back at our hotel, I sketched on the balcony, a Tuscan villa taking shape, my art class skills blooming. Lorene's laughter drifted from her room, her call to her daughter a reminder of chosen connections. I thought of Marissa's final threat, you'll be alone, and smiled. I wasn't. Rebecca's love, Lorene's friendship, Clara's encouragement, my own heart, they filled me. I'd spent years dissolving into others' needs, but now I was whole. My life a tapestry of my own weaving. The fear of solitude had driven me to buy affection. Now, I cherished my own company, and those who stayed did so for love, not gain. Garrett's text arrived as I packed for our last day. Can we talk when you're back? No money. Just us. I hesitated, then replied, maybe. Garrett, I'll let you know. His effort, however late, was noted, but my time was mine to give. I closed my sketchbook, the villa complete, and joined Lorene for a final toast. To new beginnings, she said, her glass raised. To me, I added, and we laughed, the sound carrying into the night. James's dream, my courage, had brought me here, and I was ready for whatever came next. More art, more travel, more of myself. As the Tuscan sky faded to twilight, I stood on the terrace, the air soft with lavender and promise. My journey hadn't been easy, cutting off 174 payments, facing my family's greed, reclaiming my worth, but it had led to this moment, where I was enough. The receipts were gone, replaced by sketches, plans, laughter. I whispered to James. I kept my promise and felt his presence, warm as the sun. My life, at 77, was just beginning, and it was mine to savor, one slow, deliberate sip at a time. In the quiet of a Tuscan evening, I linger on the terrace, the hills softening into dusk. My heart, once heavy with sacrifice, now beats light, unburdened by the family's demands. Rebecca's laughter, Lorraine's loyalty, my own rediscovered passions. They weave a new family, one of choice, not obligation. The pain of Garrett's text, Marissa's manipulations. Toby's entitlement fades like the day's heat, leaving only gratitude for the courage to say no. At 77, I've learned love begins with myself, a lesson etched in every sketch, every step through Italy's golden light. As stars emerge, I breathe deeply, whole at last, my story not ending but unfolding. A whisper of freedom carried on the breeze,